had it too.
You did.
This video was meant to be all about the new mods I've done to the 70 series so I could continue the testing phase. I even did the rear setup. However, things haven't gone so smoothly. But what surprised me the most, putting that aside because that's up next, is what affected my fuel economy the most. Comment down below what you think that might be. It's quite surprising. And do I still have a useful 6th gear? In the Hilux with that same tyre size, 6th gear was useless. And one more thing. The bombshell. Am I going to sell the 2.8 or am I going to sell the V8? Before that, let's figure out how I ended up in this situation. Sliders are on. They're not going to be shining for very long. Thanks for the assistance there, Luke.
No worries, mate.
I'll scratch them up today, probably.
No doubt. That's all right. That's what they're made for.
How are we sitting? How did I get myself into this situation? First of all, you got to understand that I would never attempt anything like this without some form of protection. It doesn't mean it's going to protect the vehicle completely, but it does add me a massive layer of protection. And then of course, I will suss it out before I drive it. But this is how I ended up in this predicament. It all happens pretty quick, but if you break it down, you'll notice that I assumed that I was out of it. I had it. However, right now I'm leaning down to turn the locker off. As I'm leaning down to turn the front locker off, I still have the rear one, the vehicle is slowly going backwards, but I'm not noticing it because I'm leaning down. I look up, I must have taken my foot off the brake a little bit and I've rolled back. As I've realized, I've squeezed the accelerator, and what's happened then, the front wheel is just spinning madly with no traction anymore because the front is now open. The back wheels are forced to spin, but they're not going anywhere because that front wheel is stuck on that rock, which has then sent me sideways on the back. The rock sliders are the exact same design that's on the 79 and the 78. However, I reckon these will be stronger because the mounting points are closer, not as far apart. And that's something that's really necessary for myself because I do like to be a bit rough to my gear and I like to push the limits, and I want to know how far I can take this without damaging the vehicle. Although it's not a sure way of not damaging it, it's something there to protect me. I got myself into a bit of a pickle. How did I actually get out of that situation without a winch? It doesn't look good, does it? I'll get myself out of this without doing any more damage. But before that, were the rock sliders difficult to fit?
Oh, there's a couple little differences, but not a huge amount. They're almost identical. Some weird lines running on the outside of the chassis now, and it's a big cover that you have to modify. There's some captive nuts which worked in our favour, and apart from that, it's pretty much the same.
So it kind of levelled out the difficulty and the ease.
Yeah. No welding to the chassis either this time, so that's even better.
Yeah, I like that. Thank goodness for those sliders. Nearly did my door in. I'm not out of it yet though. Although we packed rocks and placed max tracks down, it all came down to just lowering the tyres another 6 psi, holding in my nerve and keeping the front diff lock engaged this time, and then driving it out. Holy At the end of the day, this manual driver needs to learn how to drive an auto. That was my hair-raising moment out of the way. Put bigger tyres on the 70. How they impacted the vehicle. This time I thought I'd try some all-terrains instead of mud terrains. 285 75 R16. It seems to be the perfect tyre and lift combo at this stage. It's on stock suspension. I've flexed it up, if you can call that flex. It's pretty stable on the road, really good on the road actually. Off-road, honestly, you could probably get away with just this height. I haven't really been hung up on anything yet. The wheelbase is really good, being a 76. A couple of things I was worried about. Fuel consumption, taking off, and 6th gear. Because in the Hilux, I lost the usability of 6th gear, particularly with towing as well. With this vehicle, accelerating from 100 up to 110, it remains in 6th gear, providing you don't put your foot all the way to the floor. Still retains 6th gear. Drives really well. Off-road, the 33s are pretty good. Like, considering that I'm at a stock lift, it just seems like the right tyre, particularly for the highway. Fuel consumption was an extra litre per 100. I was initially getting 10.7 per 100 on my lead foot. My wife got 9.9 on stock. 33s, 11.7. Do I think it's even a chance to roll 35s? We will try 35s very soon, likely to a 3-inch just to fit them on. I'll see how that goes. If I don't like it, I may bring it back down, but I'm also doing it to see if it can tow a caravan up a hill with 35s and what the gearing's like with 35s, because it seems very similar to the V8 so far with a 33 on, just better on fuel economy. And the poke it has, the takeoff, still bloody top notch. On top of that, how did I manage to fit 33s on this vehicle? Easy. I just had to cut this little bit out of the guard here, 30 mil, that's it. That's it. In total, there are 2 permanent things that are impacting on fuel. The tyres, which we just spoke about, an extra litre per 100 thereabouts. But the other one is the roof rack. But it all depends on how I use it. As you might agree, my parking is quite questionable. This roof on the 76 series is rated at 150 kilos. I've decided to put a full rack on it rather than a 3/4, so I could use the full space of the wagon. This looks easy because I'm used to the system. And when something works for you, and you know what you're doing, stick with it. When it comes to a wagon, I think the roof rack's probably one of the most important mods when you want to carry stuff, because if you had 4 people in the vehicle and everyone had a swag, where are you going to put those swags? If they all go in the back, where are you going to put everything else? The only way you can get away with that is by towing a trailer or by putting a roof rack on. With this roof rack, weighing in at 30 something kilos, 31.9, not including the accessories and everything on it. This allows me to still have 120 kilos of payload on the roof. Am I going to use that? Definitely not. I don't want too much weight up here. The bars are running east to west, which is great, because if you want to mount a swag like I have here, if you got north to south running, you are kind of restricted where you can put those eyelids. All right. What impacted the fuel the most? There's no noticeable impact on the fuel range with just the roof rack on its own. However, having the swag up there, I've noticed a massive dent in the fuel economy, bigger than changing the tyres to 33s in fact. That's cost me another 1.5 litres per 100 having swags on the roof. So it's a big impact. And I'd imagine my fuel economy being worse had I placed it the opposite way. Always get asked, why have you got max tracks on either side? Okay, 1 is for looks, okay? Number 2 is practicality. You get bogged, passenger can jump out, grab the tracks, or your mate can just jump out of his car, grab the tracks on the other side. 2 tracks, 2 wheels, both sides, makes sense. Even weight distribution. Also, the main reason I don't like having 4 stacked all in one side, it creates this wind effect, putting more of a wind block on it because it's up so high. You can imagine twice the height of that. And having the same roof rack on the other vehicles means I already have half the hardware, half the accessories that I can use on it. So now I've got eyelids for days, I've got these mounts for days. I could just take them off the Troopy and put on here and I can have the 4 boxes. It just makes sense. You know, some things you got to keep the same, other things you can try different, like all-terrains. Something else I want to show you, which wasn't really intentional. These boxes, which are quick mounts, the Wolfpack Pro ones, they're wicked. I can literally fit 4 boxes up here, 2 this side, 2 that side. This turned into a 2-hour job. The ladder, was it easy to fit? Yes and no. Being the guinea pig here with the ladder for the 76, it doesn't match up with the camera, because now we've got new tech in the 76 series, 2.8 litre. But also the V8, I dare say, would have a reverse camera. This is what we are going to have to notch out, all because of this camera. Judo. The bombshell. Am I selling a 2.8 or a V8? That's all going to come down to wagon life. Will I enjoy wagon life? When it comes to the rear setup, I traced out around the wheel arches, cut some wood out, some marine ply, 12 mil, really quick, banged it up, chucked it in. It only took me 1.5 hours, and then I carpeted it up literally the day when we left, and it didn't take me that long either. So it's just a quick slap to get a job. I'm pretty happy with it. I was expecting that I was going to redo it at some point, but so far so good. This is what it looks like now. It's messy. This is what it looks like when it's packed and it's all nice and neat. Now, all that gear on the side is jammed in, and that's where it needs to be sort of a bit more tidy. I mean, it does look messy, but that's the reality of camping without having drawers and stuff. It's difficult to keep things light if you're gonna add drawers and all kinds of stuff in, but that's a subject for another time if I decide to keep the vehicle. So, am I selling a V8 or a 2.8? I'm at a pivotal moment right now with this 2.8 litre 70 series. It's just been so convincing. However, there are 3 more tests it needs to pass, and I've committed to the next testing phase. One of those testing phases will be, how does it behave on 35s? But the other test phase that it needs to pass is towing with bigger tyres, because people question that video. And the other one is wagon life. Does wagon life suit me? I'm a ute person. I'm used to camping with a ute. Used to dusty in the back of the ute. Just throw it in, take it out. Basic camping, that's what the 79 does. Home on wheels, that's what a 78 does. Where does this fit in? That's what I'm going to find out. Beyond that, it needs to pass those 3 tests. And if it does that, then I'll continue with this vehicle, improve a bit more on it, and sell a V8. There you go, I said it. Which V8 would I sell? I don't know, but we still got to pass those 3 tests.